The US dollar's secret power. Why the world still depends on it in a world built on money. One currency rules them all. It's the lifeblood of trade, the weapon of empires, and the silent force shaping your life, even if you never touch it. This is the story of the US dollar's secret power, how it became the world's master currency, and why, even today, the world can't escape its grip. Let's go back in time to 1944. The world was burning. World War II was ending. Nations were desperate for stability and order. So, in a quiet mountain town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods, 44 countries gathered to rebuild the global economy. And in that secretive meeting, one decision would change the planet forever. They agreed that every major currency would be tied to the US dollar, and the dollar would be tied to gold. It sounded fair, logical, but hidden in that agreement was the seed of a financial empire, the rise of the dollar. After the war, the United States held nearly 2/3 of the world's gold reserves. Other nations trusted America's word. $1 equals a fixed amount of gold. So, the dollar became the world's safety net. Governments held dollars instead of gold. Businesses traded using dollars, and people around the world began to see the dollar as money itself. But promises, especially in money, don't last forever. Wars in Korea, Vietnam, massive spending, and soon, countries began to wonder, can the US really back all those dollars with gold? Then came August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon made a shocking announcement. He closed the gold window, meaning foreign nations could no longer exchange their dollars for gold. Overnight, the world's financial system was flipped upside down. The US dollar was no longer backed by gold. It was backed by something far more powerful, trust. And strangely, that trust didn't collapse, it grew stronger. The world didn't reject the dollar, it embraced it even more. After the gold system ended, the US needed a new foundation for its global currency. So it turned to the one thing every nation needed: oil. In the early 1970s, America struck a quiet deal with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis agreed to sell their oil only in US dollars. In return, the US would protect the kingdom and provide weapons and support. Soon, other oil-producing countries joined the same deal. That was the birth of the Petrodollar system. From that moment on, if any country wanted to buy oil, it first needed US dollars. Oil powered the world, and the dollar powered oil. The empire had evolved from gold to black gold. The petrodollar made the US dollar unstoppable. Every factory, every ship, every transaction, somewhere a dollar was moving. And with every movement, America's influence grew. Even today, about 90% of all global trade touches the dollar. 60% of all central bank reserves are held in dollars. The dollar became not just money, but the language of power. It was an invisible chain, linking the fate of nations to a single currency. The US didn't have to invade. It could dominate through dollars. But power always comes with a price. When one currency dominates the world, everyone else depends on it. If the dollar rises, other currencies fall. If the US prints more money, inflation spreads across the planet. And when America imposes sanctions, it doesn't need to send soldiers. It simply cuts off access to the dollar system, and entire economies collapse. From Iran to Venezuela to Russia, the US has used its financial system as a weapon, quiet, precise, devastating. The dollar is not just paper, it's a tool of control. But every empire faces rebellion, and the dollar's empire is no different. Today, new powers are rising, and they don't like living under the dollar's shadow. Countries like China, Russia, and India are pushing back. They've formed alliances like BRICS, planning to trade using their own currencies. China promotes the digital yuan. Russia sells oil for rubles and gold. Even the European Union wonders, is it safe to rely so much on the US dollar? And beyond governments, a new idea is spreading: cryptocurrency. Money without borders, money without control, money without America, But here's the truth. None of these challengers have truly replaced the dollar. Not yet. Here's the paradox. Even the countries that criticize the dollar still depend on it, because it's stable, it's trusted, and it's backed by the most powerful economy and military in the world. When global markets panic, investors don't rush to yuan, or euros, or crypto. They run to the dollar. That's the secret. The real power of the dollar in gold, or oil, or even force. It's belief. As long as the world believes the dollar is safe, it remains the king of money. So, will the US dollar always rule the world? Maybe not forever, but for now, it remains the world's anchor. The currency of trust, the invisible empire holding the global economy together. As long as nations seek safety, as long as trade runs on fear and ambition, the dollar will keep whispering in every transaction, "I am the power behind your world." If this deep dive opened your eyes, hit subscribe and join us next time as we uncover the hidden systems shaping our world economy.